So welcome everyone. Thank you for being here with us. And we have an interesting topic today, just trying to build strength building and education in the faith community. So welcome you on behalf of the San Diego Domestic Violence Council. We are the Faith Leaders Subcommittee of the council, and we're excited to be with you every chance we get. So my name is Karen Shelton. I work for the CalWorks program at Public Consulting Group. I've been with the DV Council for the past 6 years, and I have to always admit that we have one of the strongest councils in any county across the United States. And so it's an honor to be with each of you today. I'm going to start with a universal thought for us as faith leaders and faith followers and whatever your roles are. But I wanted to start with seed time and harvest time. And so we all get an opportunity to plant seeds. And eventually, if you have a garden, or even if you look at your life as a garden, you'll go out into that garden and you'll plant seeds, and then you'll water seeds, and then you'll eventually see some weeds popping up. And we as faith members, we know that we have a wonderful creator, but we also know we have an enemy of our soul. And so if you look at your life as a garden, and in your garden is your children, is your spouse, your mate, your significant other. In your garden is your health. In your garden is your physical body. In your garden is your family. In your garden is your work, the work that you do. So we protect our garden. We plant seeds in our children. We plant seeds of hope in others around us. But then the weeds start popping up. And so we have to protect our garden. And when the weeds start popping up, we could say anger was a weed, and we want to pull that up from its root, because if we keep watering that garden, it's a good chance that those other weeds will grow up. And then there's another way that you can even consider weeds, like vultures come and try to nibble on your vegetables, or other animals will come. So we always are protecting that garden that we have, because we've been planting seeds and watering them. And then eventually we get a harvest. It could be healing as the harvest from something that you've been planting in that garden, and belief and faith of being healed, or someone else being healed in your family. And eventually that happens. But it's the protection part that I think is really significant for us, and to continue to plant seeds wherever we can, good seeds. And then make sure we clear those weeds out too, as they try to pop up, clear those weeds out. And so I wanted to just kind of prick your hearts with something that's really been heavy on my heart. And it is around children, and it is around male children, particularly. There seems to be a big attack on males, females as well, but my focus recently was shifted because a woman called me, a woman in distress. A sister friend called, and she had a dear friend whose son was tried to commit suicide. This was just like a week ago. And he just sliced his arms up really bad, really bad. And then he had enough sense to call a friend and say, hey, I'm in my car and I'm bleeding and I'm about to pass out. Come get me. I'm parked right here. So the friend went and got him. But the mother, of course, that child was in her garden, her life's garden. And so she was so broken and hurt and just distraught and didn't know what to do. So I prayed with her over that child, but I want to encourage us all to continue to pray for the young people, because they're facing a lot more challenges than we did in our generation as we were growing up. Technology is not their friend always, and it's a big distraction for them. And a teenager would rather go to school, come home and play games all night until time to eat dinner and then go to bed and just spend their time. So that's a big, huge distraction. And it's actually a strategy of the enemy to try to take out children. And we see so much evil in our world. So I want to encourage us all to continue to plant seeds, because eventually there will be a harvest. Continue to stand strong in your faith when you ask for something from your creator and you believe for it, you'll receive what we believe. So our children are in need of our support. And so I just wanted to start out with that as a caveat for us as we talk about children today that have special circumstances and are loved just as much and sometimes even more because of those circumstances. So we're going to hear a wonderful story, a mom's story today, and hoping that we'll all take away some nuggets that can help us as we continue to plant our garden and protect our garden and wait for the harvest to come. So I will greet you on behalf of Leah Grasso, who is not able to be with us today, but she is the president currently of the San Diego Domestic Violence Council. So I greet you on behalf of the council in Claudia's absence. She loves what we're doing. She is a faithful woman. She is a woman of faith as well. And so it's just good to have someone like her leading the council and making sure that people are safe. And that's where she is right now. She runs the Justice Center in North County, and it's a vibrant, safe place, one safe place for someone to go to when they're in need, whether it's human trafficking or domestic violence or sexual assault. And that includes men. It's not always women that are there. It includes men. And so we're an inclusive, that's an inclusive safe space for everyone who needs to get to safety. So thank you for being here this morning. Celine, will you go ahead and introduce our speaker?
And I don't know if you normally go around and say who's in the room.
Okay, yes.
I'm here, but I'd love to hear who attends this meeting. I haven't actually been to this meeting since it's been reinvigorated.
Okay, so yeah, if we could go around real quickly and introduce ourselves so that everyone knows who's in the room with us. Thank you. Thanks, Tara. Okay. Awesome names. Lori?
Hi, I'm Lori Reynolds, and I am on staff at Bethlehem Lutheran Church in Encinitas, and I am a Stephen ministry leader. I train lay people to walk with those who are going through a difficult time in their life.
Beautiful.
Not counselors, just support.
Awesome. Thank you for your work and thank you for being with us.
Mm-hmm.
Maria?
Good morning, I'm Maria Garcia Lopez. I'm with Interfaith Shelter Network of San Diego, and I'm the program manager of our housing program for survivors of domestic violence.
Awesome, thank you. Glenn?
I think her audio might not be working.
Yeah, I'll go. My name is Mia Hall. I am with the Office of Violence Prevention. I am the Violence Prevention Specialist, and I provide background support for the San Diego Domestic Violence Council.
Thank you, thank you. Who's next? Maggie?
Hi, good morning. My name is Maggie. I am with Vista Hill. I'm a CARES case manager advocating for families who are receiving cash aid assistance.
Okay, thank you. Welcome aboard. Okay, who didn't go?
I can go. My name is Barbara Wotak. I'm the program manager for a program that, hi, Shalyn, provides education to resource parents. So that's community members that are caring for children in the foster care system, as well as relative caregivers. Thanks so
Awesome.
much.
Nice to have you with us this morning. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and introduce Sarah, and then she can tell us a little bit about herself.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. So I have to start by reflecting on just I'm so grateful that the to Karen and Misty and everybody who's helped reinvigorate this committee. It's such an important committee of the council, and it was dormant for many, many years. We had maybe a year and a half. Maria may remember this, probably, I don't know, 10 years ago, where we had a faith committee, and there was some trainings and some meetings, and it was so great to have, and then it just kind of went away. And so I'm just so grateful that all of you are here and engaging. My work hat is I've been involved in the council for like 16 years. I recently decided I keep calling myself a dinosaur of the council. I'm like, no, I'm a I don't know, stormtrooper, no, something more peaceful, a Jedi of the council. Although I guess that's kind of violent too, but I just I've been around for a long time, and I've been trying to support the work of the council for a really long time. And these committees are really truly where the work happens. And, we've done everything in kind of with the council with awareness campaigns and policy change. So one of my hats is I do domestic violence fatality review, and I've been doing that also. That's my longest hat. I worked alongside Amelia at the Office of Violence Prevention, and I always do it based on my children's age. So Julian, who I'm going to talk about as a parent, he's turning 18 next week, and he was maybe a year and a half when I joined OVP. And so again, it's about 16 years I've been involved in the council, involved in doing domestic violence fatality review. And we often see that faith communities are a point of intervention where a survivor may disclose abuse that's going on, or struggles, or it's life stressors. And it's such an important opportunity for intervention. Families with special needs are under incredible stress, and it can lead to abuse or other dynamics happening in the household that weren't there present prior. And I know child welfare sees that a lot. And I love this new concept with the family well-being concept, because it really speaks true to, we made it through, thank goodness, and never went down that path where things went sideways, but I can easily see how that happens. It's very, very stressful having a family member with special needs, and an individual with health conditions. All of those things add to the stress. And so when I'm wearing, my work hat with DV fatality review, we see those dynamics in every case, and prior trauma that hasn't been addressed. And faith communities have such an important opportunity to support and heal and connect these families early. And so again, wearing my work hat, I just want to mention two things that are coming up that you might be interested in. We have, I'm involved in 2 Office of Violence Against Women grants. I do operation support for One Safe Place. I serve under Claudia at that North County Family Justice Center. And we kind of have teamed up to help support the training, continue the training division. I've been doing the training division for the council for many years. And so that I can sustain that, I'm kind of involved with One Safe Place and the DV Council to continue trainings. And so I've been able to access, through our Office of Violence Against Women's grant, some really amazing technical assistance providers. And so last year we did one on stalking, we did one on firearms, and those were presenters that were from this pool that we get access to because of this grant. Right now, we're going to do a series on inclusivity. And so really speaks to actually what we're talking about today. And so we're going to have one on language inclusivity and really looking at how can we do better, not just accessing a language line or translator, but how do we be really thoughtful about how we utilize those services, and really thinking about how do we truly accommodate language needs from all different levels of processes through our organizations. And that would include, I think, faith communities. And then we're going to have one on LGBTQ, and we're going to have one on disabilities. So again, speaks really closely to what we're talking about today. So keep an eye out for those. I think you're probably all on the DV Council email list. The flyer for the one that's happening this coming Tuesday, it's our regular council meeting. Tuesdays 1 to 3 o'clock, but do register. It's also on the Facebook. But if you want the flyer, you can put your email in the chat and I'll make sure you get it specifically so you can register. It's of course free, and we can accommodate up to 500 for that. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is related to that OVW grant, we're going to do some new awareness campaigns, and we're going to tie them into the council as well. And we really want to be, one of the things that came out from our community assessments was faith communities were such an important opportunity to reach individuals, again, kind of on the earlier intervention side, and thinking about, newsletters, how can we get into those newsletters and write articles about, resources and services for survivors of abuse? How do we, do outreach? How do we, have what kinds of posters, those kinds of things. So I'm going to be convening probably within a month or two some different groups around gathering ideas on this messaging, what kinds of outreach we want to do for that. So I would love to engage this community in that process as well, if that would be okay. And Karen, I'll reach you and try to see if we can get this committee. Anybody from this committee that's interested, we would just love to have your lens on, what would be helpful. What kinds of tools do you want in your hand so that when you're having those conversations, little folding cards, or do we need, again, newsletters, or what would be the appropriate mechanisms, and what is the right kind of messaging that's going to resonate with individuals. So I actually have 2 grants, and we have funding on both of those for to do some resourcing materials and hire a designer and all that good stuff. So it's a good chunk of change. I want to say probably close to $50,000-$60,000 for awareness. So I really want to do it right, make sure we get really reach individuals in the right ways. And I know, Shalyn, you and I talked about this a little while back. So we're finally amping up. We're just waiting for final approval on OVW, and then I can start engaging those groups. Okay, so that was my workshop. Now I'll move on. So I'm here today actually as a parent. And so I want to first say that I'm not an expert in this area of autism or services for congregations, but I am an expert in being Julian's mom. And again, I've had 18 years of almost 18 years of experience. He turns 18 again next Friday, and we're actually taking our first vacation a very long time to actually going to Washington DC next week, rain or shine. It looks like it's gonna be some rain, because this has been something that he's been wanting to do for years and years, and his favorite area topic is politics and government and all of that. So what better way to celebrate being 18, gaining the right to vote than to be in DC. So we were trying to get him a White House tour, and we got declined. I guess there was too many requests. We got so close, but we didn't get it. But we will, he'll go to the Capitol and all those other things. So it's a passion of his. So I have a few slides. Let me bring them up. How much time do I have? Like 30 minutes, 20 minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
How do you need?
Okay, cool. Oops, I got to share screen, don't I? All right. Oops. Uh-oh. Ooh, PowerPoint just like crashed. Can you still hear me?
Yes, yes, we
Okay.
hear you.
Okay, my computer just went like solid white here. Restarting, here we go. Hopefully it pops back up. There it goes. I think it didn't like that. I had that overnight. Okay, so let me do share screen. So, all right. So again, I'm just speaking as a mom today. And I'm a mom of 3 children. I have a 4, a 14, and a 17-year-old. And so Amelia asked me, she's been hearing me talk about Julian for 17 years. So she's 16 years. So she, I think she thought of me for this topic because she's seen me walk the path. I mean, this has been an incredible job for me, a lovely job. I love being a mother. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't choose a different life. I wouldn't choose different children in any way. I love each one of them for exactly who they are. But I can't say that it hasn't been stressful. I mean, I those who know me in my work life know that I work way too much. I'm extremely passionate about domestic violence and domestic violence prevention, and I work around the clock, but I also try to do that with my children as well. So I'm really tired. When I'm tired, I basically go into coma sleep because my body shuts down. I can't do anymore. And so I do try to nap on the weekends to make up for working way too much, 6 days a week. And trying to manage. Julian is my eldest, and he, I have to say, from birth, we knew something was different. Even though he was our first, we knew something just wasn't quite the same as other children. And I'd have him in the front pack, and I'd go into the mall and he'd be screaming. I'd go into I remember being in a record store with him and having somebody just basically tell me, you need to leave, because he just started screaming, and he couldn't handle noise, sound, lights, all of that. And so he'd get overstimulated, right, from birth. This was something we were seeing. And I remember being I would try to take him to baby groups whenever I could, again, with the juggle of work, it wasn't always easy, but when I could get him into a Gymboree kind of group, I would try those, and he would be the kid who wasn't really participating the same as others, would be having tantrums, I'd watch all the other, and I'm like, why is this so hard? What am I doing wrong? Really feeling like I'm doing something wrong, because he also presented, so he's really high functioning autism. And so it wasn't as maybe as obvious as if he'd been struggling a little bit more with more blatant symptoms. I think I wouldn't have felt that way, but because he could do some things, but he couldn't do some things, I kept feeling like, am I doing something wrong? Am I, not handling his behaviors appropriately? Why is he responding this way in these settings? And you get, the stink eye from other parents. You kind of be asked to sit separate, those kinds of things. I remember being at a Halloween thing, and he was, pretty young, maybe 2. And we were in line he just couldn't wait. It was like popcorn or something. We're in line and he couldn't wait. He wanted it like this minute. He couldn't understand why we're waiting in line for this popcorn. And he's, screaming and throwing the tantrum. And I remember the person serving told us to leave. And I'm like, that's just going to make it worse. I'm just trying to get him the popcorn. And I felt like he shouldn't be punished just because he's struggling. But I was embarrassed, and she told us to leave. So we did. But you deal with a lot, I think, when you're a parent with special need of a special needs child, with the community not understanding those behaviors or thinking you're just spoiling them, or that why does your child act that way? There's a lot of judgment, I think, that goes with that. And you know, and each child with autism is so different, what it looks like. And every child with special needs, it's just so different, what that can look like and what those behaviors are. So some can handle certain situations and some can't, you know. So for him, when he was younger, it was noise, light, sound, smell. He also had speech delays. He really didn't speak more clearly. He didn't get out of speech therapy through school and privately till about age 10, and where he was really able to articulate his needs and be able to speak clearly. So until 5, he really was pretty minimal words and he would mumble. So we spent a lot of time trying to guess, what do you need? What do you want? It was just these tantrums and not really being able to figure out, you know, what he needed in those moments. Even if we wanted, you know, to help, if it wasn't like a tantrum, we don't want to give in to the tantrums per se, but if it was something that we could give him, we wouldn't necessarily even know what that was. What was he wanting? He would point, my husband and my husband caught this first, and I didn't realize, I didn't notice it at first, but he would point to what was essentially a thought bubble. So he could, you know, he would think we could see into his brain. We could know what he was thinking. And why can't we, you know, just do it? Why are you not doing it? So he would point to the thought bubble and say, this, and he's pointing to it, and he knows what it is, but we don't know what's in, you know, in that thought bubble. And so it's very, very distressing, very stressful to not be able to help my child. And again, my firstborn, and not, you know, knowing, like, again, really what was going on. Delayed speech. He had a vocal tic at one point where he would like cough and make this sound, and he'd just do it like repetitively all the time. And then he would do a lot of repetitive behaviors, especially with toys, like, you know, repeating different scenes from maybe like Thomas the Train. He'd see a movie and he would repeat that on his train track, or he would I remember there was this scene in Up, and he kept repeating it. He'd go in the room, come back, say it again, do it again, do it again. He'd just keep repeating it. And he very much needed kind of a structured schedule, which wasn't always easy for us because we had, you know, jobs and a lot of, you know, we were dealing with a lot. And so, you know, keeping structure, he really, you know, craved routine. School is actually good for him for that reason, because it was more predictable, but getting him in the morning, getting him there was really hard. I would have to, typically I couldn't park really close. There's always traffic, and I'd be, I actually had to haul him to the only special ed program that we were able to get him into was not like we would come from Chula Vista all the way to Claremont area, and we got him into a program there, and I would drop them and then go into OBP. At that time I was in Pacific Beach, but it was a lot of driving, and so I would prepare he'd expect a very specific breakfast, so I would make him. Every morning he wanted the same thing. So I got, he wanted the homemade waffle. It had to be made in a very specific way, cooked, you know, very specific way, or he'd reject it. And so, and then with applesauce and chocolate milk, and then I'd set it in this tray and I'd get him in the car and I'd drive him and he'd be eating so that we could get him there on time. And then by the time I get to this, and heaven forbid, I cooked it wrong or I'm missing the syrup or something, he had, specific stuff that he wanted, he would throw it across the car while we're driving there, which, you know, is just, so then we'd get to the school and then there'd never be parking, and and he would fight me like going into the school every morning. He was fine once he get in there, but he did not like that transition from the car into the school. And so, you know, I'd have to strap him into the stroller. and like basically tilt the stroller with him kicking and screaming, sometimes only half dressed because he would, refuse to be close. And I'd push him into the school, kicking and screaming, everyone staring, and get him in there and then try to finish dressing him. And then he's fine. And it was like this every day. So I would started doing rewards with him, and we would do like he could earn stars towards earning Thomas trains because he was obsessed with Thomas the Train. He knew that was actually some of his very first words. He knew every character on Thomas the Train. And so Amelia's like, oh my God, how many millions of dollars have you spent on Thomas the Train? It was a lot of money. Back when they had Toys R Us, I could actually take him in there and he could pick one. And that was a huge reward for him. And that helped me get him to preschool for 2 years because he could earn these trains. And so it actually really paid off because that special ed preschool was a lifesaver. It really did give him some of those services and that structure and all of that good stuff that he needed during that time in his life when and I missed a point here, which was he was not yet diagnosed. I took him to Rady's and I took him to another private specialist and had him evaluated, but he would scream through the evaluations because they were in a small room, typically with 2 or 3 different professionals, and he wouldn't perform, quote unquote, for the evaluation. So he didn't get a diagnosis, so we couldn't get any insurance to pay for anything. His private doctor, his doctor, it was a Rady Children's Connected primary care doctor. She was his greatest advocate. She kept writing letters. She was fighting with the insurance. She was trying to get him in this service. She's like, I know he needs this stuff, but I can't get insurance to cover it. And at that time, we couldn't pay privately for a bunch of services. So luckily we were able, luckily and not luckily, he ended up with a secondary diagnosis. He ended up with just total coincidence, but he ended up with type 1 diabetes, not the same as type 2. If those of you that know anything about diabetes, it's he's insulin dependent. And at age 2, he ended up with type 1 diabetes. And I remember the doctor coming to visit him. She's like, God, of all my patients, why? She knew how much his sensory issues were a struggle for him. And then to get shots and finger pricks all day long was just like such a nightmare, and his lack of ability to do any kind of self-care, so it was just a really, really difficult combination. But on the bright side, that diagnosis is how we got him into special ed, because he was able, then had other health impairment, and we were able to get him on an IEP, and he ended up getting under that. And then eventually we were able to get the other diagnosis. So at age 5, he did get diagnosed with autism through a regional center, actually. And so then we were able to start getting all the private services. But just to start again with the symptoms. So I mentioned the speech delay, vocal tic, repetitive behaviors. He'd have incredible time transitioning. Again, school was amazing for helping with that. And I'll talk about ABA. He did ABA. Set with change, would line up toys, obsessive interest, repeat phrases over and over, sensory overload, sounds, smell, taste, incredibly selective feeding. I didn't know, and I think they really didn't have the research until recent years around the connection between autism and feeding disorders, but incredibly selective around what he'll eat. And what you always hear is, oh, they don't like the texture. They don't like for him, it wasn't about texture. It was smell and taste. So it was actually a little, in a way, more challenging because there's not a lot of rhyme or reason to what he will or won't eat. And he really, he's also very brand specific as well about what he'll eat. So like for his birthday, for example, today we're celebrating this evening, he's getting together 5 friends. And what does he want to do? He wants to go to Five Guys. He would eat Five Guys every day of the week if I would, if we could afford it. It's so expensive. And so that's, that's his thing. So his friends are going to come over from school and he's going to go there. I'll pick up his brother and the 5 of them are going to eat Five Guys. That's what he wanted to do for his party. So I'm like, okay, that's So whatever makes him happy, you know, but that's he has very specific restaurants that he would eat at every single meal if he could. And that's a kind of a constant thing that we're working on now. The screaming and the tantrums were, I mean, he would go 3 hours with a tantrum. Like, I mean, and we had to really work with him on that. Like, he needed to have time out. We had to set the boundaries because he was never going to learn if we didn't do that. So that's, you know, and ABA was really great for helping us continue to make progress around the tantrums and transitioning and sharing, turn taking, all those kind of basic skills that he was kind of struggling with. And then potty training. He didn't get out of diapers until he was just about into kindergarten. He made it just in time. He potty trained to go to kindergarten. But he still needed to he would only go to the bathroom in the nurse's office because he didn't like the bathrooms at the school where everyone's flushing. It was so loud and overstimulating for him. So the school did accommodate him where anytime he needed to go to the bathroom, they bring him to the nurse's office. And as he got older, he would just ask, I mean, all the way through 6th grade, he would just ask and they would let him go to the nurse's office to go to the bathroom. So that was something. He did have an accident. I want to say it was like 3rd grade, kind of on the older end, where he couldn't make it, you know, there's closer bathrooms. He couldn't make it all the way to the nurse's office. And he ended up pulling down his pants and going to the bathroom right there in the middle of the front of all the kids on the recess yard, you know. So it just shows, you know, even when he was making progress and he was a little bit older, he was still, you know, I mean, and luckily he recovered from that socially. I mean, that's the kind of thing, of course, kids will remember forever. But it's because he didn't want to go to the closer bathroom. He wanted to go all the way to the nurses. He's like, I'm not going to make it. So he just went. I mentioned the thought cloud. Driving in cars, he'd get overstimulated. I mean, just even as a baby, he'd be screaming his head off. He couldn't handle being in the car seat, couldn't handle the noise from the car. So I would have to pull over constantly and try to soothe him. And I just remember being like, why, you know, like, why is this so hard? You hear other kids like will fall asleep in the car. And for him, it was the opposite. He'd get completely overloaded. And I literally would have to like get off the freeway and go somewhere and like try to calm him, get back on, and he starts screaming again. It was really, really challenging when he was little. He did kind of start to acclimate to that. And then like I remember putting him in swimming class. He the noise, it was an indoor pool and it was heated, so it was for little guys, and the noise from the sound bouncing off the walls inside of there, same thing. And all the other kids are happy, enjoying the water, it's warm, and he's in there just completely lost his mind. And so I took him like twice and never again. I mean, I was just like, okay, that's, I can't do it. And so it was always a battle, like how much do I push him to try new things at this, so that he's, making progress, but at the same time, not wanting to, put him into a point of distress, so as a mom, kind of trying to constantly find those lines of like, I want to help him, but I don't want to overwhelm him. And I saw some parents with children with autism would be really cautious and not push them ever. And I feel like then they weren't making, it's hard because you weren't seeing them make as much progress. But at the same time, I get it, because you don't want them to be distressed, so it's like where, finding those lines, and every parent's just got to figure out, for them, what feels right, and trust your gut. And that was something I think if I was to give guidance to other parents who've gone through this, would be, just listening to your gut and trusting yourself and just doing what's right for your family. I mean, that's the bottom line. You just got to figure out what's going to be okay for you, and try not to take in all the judgment and worry about what other people are thinking, because it's really hard, especially, again, he was my first new parent. I was looking to others for guidance, and I was getting a lot of really bad advice, but not knowing that at that time, because I was new. and then he was obsessed with trash trucks. I have to tell this story because it's too cute, but he was like, he had this trash truck and he repeat over and over again, putting the little trash thing in, dump it, come back, with the toy and everything. I remember, I think I went to like 10 different Toys R Us trying to find that truck for him for Christmas, because I knew that's what he wanted. And anyways, but he loved the physical trash trucks too. So as a reward or a way to get him out the door in the morning, I'd leave a little early with him before school and we would follow the trash truck. And I think they thought we're in that show, Boss, whatever it's called, like I'm monitoring them or something. And no, it's just my son's obsessed with your trash truck. So we would I'm like stalking the trash truck through the neighborhoods. And so we'd go looking for trash trucks and follow them because he just loved watching the trash. He'd pull up to the house, get the trash, dump it in, and go to the next one. And so we even went and Tony and I took him to the trash, the trash dump area and they let us do a tour. And so we got to see how they sort the trash and they bring the trash into the landfill and everything. I mean, it was the stinkiest tour ever, but he was thrilled, of course. So, just finding the things that they love. And then the other thing I want to mention is marriage. So again, it was incredibly stressful having a child with special needs, and it took a toll on our marriage. And we, for the most part, we would generally agree how to handle him, but we were just both so distressed, like, how do we help this child? And so one of the things we did, I think that really helped us a lot, was get ahead of that. We didn't wait till we had problems or were fighting. We heard the divorce rates of children with special needs. And we just did couples counseling just in prevention. And we did it for like 3 years. We would go like almost every week for 3 years. And my mom would watch him while we would go. And we trucked out all the way to Hillcrest, which was a drive for us. We worked with this really great therapist, and we just kind of talked about how are we going to handle, so that we were on the same page and our communication was continuing to flow and work through any issues as they came up before they became a problem. That was honestly the best thing we ever could have done for our marriage, was just kind of get ahead of that. And when I was thinking about faith communities around this topic, I was just thinking, oh my gosh, just, even to have a place where parents can come and who are experiencing this, because I'm sure it's a huge part of your congregation has family members who are caregivers for people, elders who are sick, or dependent adults, or children with special needs. I mean, so everyone's got something going on. And so just to have a place where people can come and just like vent and talk and support each other would be such an amazing gift. I think that you could have in these in your congregation. My husband, he was really struggling with his faith, and I had become Catholic right before we got married, so I was new to that. I hadn't grown up with faith, and so we had baptized Julian, and we had been going regularly to a Catholic church, and it was the faith my husband had grown up in. And we really struggled with the taking him to church. And it just, anytime we were in mass, he would be screaming. We tried the quiet room. The quiet rooms were babies crying, which just made it worse. And we could never hear anything because it was on a TV screen or trying to look in, and you couldn't hear anything or see anything. So we're like, why are we even here? And it was just so stressful. So we just started pulling back. And so my husband, I was really encouraging him. He was really struggling emotionally. He also has a trauma history, and this was just a lot for him. And so he tried to seek out counsel more than once, and he wouldn't get calls back, or they just weren't really very helpful. They didn't understand what we were going through. And he tried multiple times. And I think at that point, he lost interest, and he has never returned, to be frank. I think it was just too many failed attempts and not feeling like, what's the point of this? I'm not getting any support. There's no community here. People don't understand what we're going through. There's no way for us to participate. We're completely isolated. And so I was actually the one, even though I was kind of newer to the church, that I was trying to encourage us to continue to try. Then when our second son was born, he doesn't have autism, but he does have ADHD, and he's a very active kid. I mean, he was like a climber, always jumping around, very loud. So it was like, at that point, game over. we between the two of them, we're like, nope, I don't think we're going to do this. We're just going to have a relationship with God in a different way and feel like we can support each other. But we did not return to the Catholic Church after that. And so his brother being born really was kind of a wake-up call for us, because we really did start to see, oh, wow, okay, he was actually, even despite the ADHD, was a much easier kid, could read him, could understand him. And so that's when I really started to push it again for the second evaluation, and continued to do that until he was, again, I mentioned, diagnosed at age 5 from San Diego Regional Center. But his sibling relationships have been really good for him. It's been a way for him to kind of see model other behavior, and have some people to practice social engagement with. And even when we were doing ABA, they would include the siblings, and so it would be, at that time it was just Teo, my 14-year-old. Now they're about just under 3 years apart. And so the two of them would, practice all the things together. And, and it's interesting now watching the middle guy, because he is in a way more mature than this 18-year-old. And I have to continue to remind myself, well, there's a developmental delay there, even with all of his progress. He's got a lot of challenges, and I have to just kind of remind myself this is part of the path, but it's been, again, a really wonderful thing for him to have the sibling to kind of be his buddy in life. Even, I mean, it's not always been easy for the middle guy, because now he's getting older, so we can kind of explain a little bit about why his, what's going on with his brother, and why he gets a lot of attention too. I think there was a time where we felt really guilty. We feel like we're giving so much attention to Julian and not as much to Teo, our middle guy, just because he needed so much, and between the type 1 diabetes and the autism and the feeding and everything that was going on with him, he gets a lot of attention in life, and it feels like he gets a lot more reward. And so as we've really tried to make him feel like he's getting equal attention and equal special, treats and everything else. So, but that's been a struggle always. And we've always had some guilt, like that he's kind of waiting while we're dealing with Julian, and he spent a lot of time as a baby, as a young kid, as a toddler, waiting while we're dealing with a tantrum, or dealing with, or Julian fighting over wanting to eat a specific place, and the other one never gets to have a say or whatnot. It's just, so again, that, is something we've always had to try to balance. And then I just wanted to kind of talk about Miss. So, we get, again, we would be told, oh, well, he's got eye contact, he can't be autistic, or he's affectionate, or, oh, he can communicate, or, yeah, he seems really intelligent. Maybe he was misdiagnosed. So, and so I love that phrase, when you meet one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. And I think that's such an important reminder, is that every kid with autism, sensory issues, special needs is different, and they present differently, and their needs are different. And all you can do is figure out, what does that particular person need, and not try to squeeze them into a box. Even when you go to like CDC and some of those general sites about autism, if you read down, I think a lot of parents see that and they think, oh, well, then maybe they're not that, and I'm not going to bother to get them evaluated, because it'll say things like they can't speak, or they can't, they don't like or they can't have eye contact. It's not necessarily true. Everybody presents different. We taught him eye contact, and he was able to really improve that over the years. So he's been able to learn how to kind of have more eye contact, how to smile more quote unquote normal. He still struggles. I think sometimes I notice in photos, he still kind of does things, but he's watches other people and he's learned how to do a lot of those things. So, and he's incredibly intelligent, a really great memory. But it has to be what he wants to do. It's hyper focused on what he wants to do. Karen was reflecting on the computer stuff. Absolutely. They want, that's what they want to do. They want to come home, be on a computer hours and hours and hours. So we've had to really monitor for like social bullies. I mean, I've come in where he's just crying, and it's because people have been so mean to him online, and really trying to remind him, like, these are people you don't even know, but it's so hard for them to understand that, because for them, that's their world, is this online piece. And I mentioned the co-occurring issue. So he's got type 1 diabetes, and he's got the feeding disorder. And then when I had my third child, who's now 4, when he was born, we got a call from, my mom was covering him that week, and we got a call from the hospital, and from the school, and the school kept calling me all week long saying he's having these panic attacks and meltdowns and crying, and I think that little guy was born 5 weeks early, and I think it really scared Julian. It scared him because I'm kind of his person, and I think it scared him that something bad was going to happen to me. And I think he also got scared because he realized a lot of attention was going to be on the baby and not him. But it triggered a really significant anxiety for him, and he still has it. He will start kind of self-diagnosing himself with cancer or heart conditions or other things if he's not on his med. And so we did try their regular traditional talk therapy with him, which really didn't work for him, because that's just not how his brain works. And I've talked to Regional Center, and they have like basically nothing for teens for around this kind of stuff. So he's but he is on a medication for the anxiety, and it has gotten a little better with time, but that ended up being kind of a third, fourth diagnosis for him, was this anxiety. And that's pretty common with kids with autism, that they end up with other mental health challenges as well. But finding the advocate. So again, we had really good pediatrician, his endocrinologist for his diabetes, Dr. Kelly, you can see here, was his doctor for many, many years. And he was a really amazing advocate for him. The special ed teacher that in his first preschool was really great. He had the most amazing ABA therapist. They would rotate, so we wouldn't always get her, but most of the days we did. And she just really helped him make a lot of progress. We did feeding team around the feeding disorder. We did speech therapy. He was again in that special ed. When he went to kindergarten, we did actually put him in regular ed, but with he had to have an inclusion aid around the behavior and also around the feeding and the diabetes, because they needed to make sure he ate enough and that he actually did if he was getting his insulin, that he actually ate enough, because he, again, was such a picky eater. We wouldn't know, is he going to eat or not eat? So they would come back and report what he ate to the nurse. And then also just supporting to make sure, educationally he was getting everything he needed. So he had an IEP, he had inclusion aid, he had speech therapy, OT, feeding team, and then ABA, hours and hours of ABA. So we would do like 12 hours a week of ABA for about 4 years in the home. It was really hard. So those of you who know me in my work life, I didn't sign on to the county. I did this other types of work. I would work full time, but I was doing it like consulting, contracting, all these different other ways to piecemeal it so that I can make my schedule. This was after OVP, after I'd left OVP, so that I can make my schedule, because I had to be available to do all of this treatment, cart him to Radies for OT, cart him to Radies for speech, get him from school, take him to be here 12 hours a week for ABA, because you had to be present. Of course, you can't just drop him off and leave or go work or whatever. You have to be participating in all of those things. I'm very lucky. My mom is a really, really great support, and retired around the time my second son was entering preschool. So she's been really like just an amazing help to me. And so that's made a lot of this possible as well. So I'm lucky to have some family support near me. Without that, I probably couldn't have maintained a full-time job through all these years. Without her help, just because, you can't, the math wouldn't have added up in terms of all the hours and stuff. And then he also did some social skills groups, both through Radies, and then he did some through school as well. And then Disneyland. So I have to mention Disneyland. So this was one of my treatment, my most effective treatment solutions. I would take him, we got passes for Disneyland, and I took him, this is back when Disneyland was affordable. Now you can't buy passes without, breaking the bank. But we would take him and do things in small doses. They had accommodations, so you could tell them he had autism, and then he would be allowed to get like front of the line, but it's still a shorter line, and you go through the exit, and then there's like a shorter line. So that's an accommodation. Disneyland, I believe they still do this, and you just have to go up and explain what the challenge is, and then they give you like this kind of pass, but you still have to, you wait in a line, but it's a shorter line. And it was perfect because it was a way for him to practice being patient, to do something he wanted to go on the ride, and it was rewarding for him to go on the ride. So it was a way for him to practice waiting and taking a turn. And so and being again around a lot of noise and lights and sounds and people. And we did that for a couple of years, where we would go whenever we could make the time to trek up there and do like a 3-day weekend or whatever, and do a day or 2 days, and just kind of go in doses as much as he could do. And it was the most effective exposure therapy, because it was very rewarding for him, and he would get the reward of being on the ride, and then other treats throughout the day. And so he really learned a lot by doing that. So, but again, that's kind of a something now I don't think we could afford, and it's definitely something that we were able to do just out of privilege. I know not every family is going to have that option, but even if you just go to the mall for a little bit, we would do that as well. Go to the mall, kind of walk around a little bit, just I would try to get him into these situations, because eventually now he can go to a party. My husband's family is Mexican, and it would be like 120 family members in a really loud setting, a lot of food, and everyone coming up and hugging you, and they don't understand what his special needs are. So he would stand outside out front of the party going, I'm not going in that, he just and so it would be really hard. And I always say it's 20 minutes. If we can get him in there and he could stay for 20 minutes, usually he could kind of acclimate. We just kind of keep him a little bit separate and he could do it. But if he couldn't after 20 minutes and then he's melting down, then forget it. We got to go. And same with any birthday parties and other things. So, but now he can handle it. He can go to those big parties. He can go to, he can be in a loud setting. He even went to a concert the other pretty recently. And my husband stayed at the back just to, make sure he was okay. But he's he did well. And so the other thing, so regional center has been actually really great. And I want to mention regional center. I don't know how I am on time. We're okay for a few more minutes, right?
Yes, you're okay for a few more minutes.
Okay. So he did regional center for families that are in your congregation. They're asking about resources. You may hear regional center being, it's incredibly hard to get in the front door. You have to have very specific diagnosis, and they have to be severe enough to qualify. If they have the diagnosis of autism and it's severe enough, they're going to do their own evaluation. They're going to look at the records. But if you have it through like another place like Brady's, you can submit that diagnosis to regional center, and that actually expedites the process. It can take a whole year to get qualified for regional center services. And I remember going through and going, oh, is this even worth it? And some of the folks on the front end, just, I didn't feel like we're very professional or trauma informed looking back. But once we got qualified, the case managers have been amazing advocates for him. They'll participate in IEP meetings if we need them to, because early on we were doing a lot of time in for those who don't know, that's an individual education plan through the school. That's how they get their services. And so he's always had to have learning goals. He's had to have inclusion aid. We even got them to walk him through the line of the cafeteria, just to expose him to food, and he would pick one item and still eat his other stuff, but it was a way to help him make progress, and it worked. And so we were able over the years to really get creative and advocate for his needs through those meetings. We got more and more savvy. I mean, it was very intimidating at first. We didn't know what we were doing. Now we know. My husband sits on one side, I sit on the other side, so we're spread out, because if you sit together, and then you kind of get I don't know, the power isn't even. But now we know, we're experts at these IEP meetings now. We know exactly how to, and we know what our rights are, and so that's also really helpful. There's groups like Compass and other but again, regional center, they'll help you advocate in those IEP meetings. They'll come and be another voice so that you're not overpowered, because just having another person on, kind of helping you, because the schools have limited resources, and they have to, balance that. And of course, and we're always thoughtful of that. We weren't trying to take advantage, but we want to make sure our son got what he was needing. And so, there was things looking back. I wish I'd known early on. I know he didn't get as much as he should have. But as he got older, we were, more savvy and knew kind of what our rights were, and how to advocate for those resources. Anyway, so regional centers has been a great, and they'll stay with him for life. So once he was qualified, that's a huge relief for a family as well, because we were always so scared. Oh no, he's diagnosed, but what happens if if the service goes away, or is he gonna, we were scared to death, because it took us so long to get him services. We were so scared of him losing those services before he was ready to stop the services. Eventually we did taper him off, because he was kind of in a good place and he was ready for a treatment break, and we were able to stop the ABA and some of the OT and all those, and speech at school and all of those things. So now he's pretty much has almost no services, not even nursing. He handles all of his devices himself for his type 1. He gets himself to and from classes. He's in a co-taught, I think, math or English or something. So I mean, he still has an IEP and he still has goals, but and he has a resource specialist who follows him, but he's for the most part, he kind of navigating these things himself now. I mean, incredible progress. And regional center is going to help him transition now. So I had a meeting with them last week or the week before just to talk about that. So we were talking about they're putting in the queue, the request, these are contracted services, but to help him have a navigator when he starts college, to help him figure out how to get to his classes, how to manage his schedule, how to where are the different resources, disability services, all of that. So they're going to have they have a special contracted service that does that transition to college for kids with special needs. And then they have one for, it was like life skills or something like that. And it's going to help him learn to do more stuff on his own, like do his own laundry, kind of figure out his own budget. He's still going to live with us. He's still going to do public transit. He decided he didn't think he had the ability to drive. Very relieved, because I think that would be not necessarily a safe choice for him at this point. Not to say that can't be done in the future, but just, at this point, I don't think he's ready. But so I was glad he chose that. And we've been having him practice bus since middle school. He has been taking the bus to and from school, because I work and it's a direct line to and from the school. So it's perfect. He only walks a block. And he takes a public transit. It's free for youth now too. So it's, but he's been capable of doing that. We went with him the first couple of times just to make sure get off here. And what do you do if a stranger's near you, or where do you sit, or, so but he's pretty darn savvy, and he's been able to do it really well. So that's been really great, because now we know when he gets to college, he can do the bus and the trolley and get himself to and from if he needs to. So that's been, we've been kind of trying to transition him for quite some time. But now he has a girlfriend. He's making incredible progress. We're waiting to hear any day now. We think he might get into San Diego State. So we'll see, hopefully. If he doesn't, he'll go to Southwestern College. But he's had a girlfriend for like a year and a half or something like that. And she's like, I love you for just who you are. And she's incredibly accepting of him and all of his different challenges, very patient. And so we got very lucky that he found a really wonderful partner right now, that at least for this point in his life, and that's very, very accepting. He's still struggling right now. He's actually really good with clothes. Like, he can wear almost anything. He performs for school in his show choir, and so he gets himself to us from his performances. He wears all the different outfits, so he's good with clothes now. This is a kid who we could not get him into regular shoes, to the point where he would only wear these like sandals, because that's what he like wore and he got used to, and he only would wear these sandals, and to the point where I had to keep buying in advance, like the next size up, out of fear that they would not have these anymore. But when he started school, they wanted him in closed-toed shoes, and we spent a ton of sessions in occupational therapy practicing putting on shoes and socks. He even ended up with a foot infection because he would wear the socks but not the shoes, so they were wearing socks with sandals, and he ended up having it was just, shoes and socks, you wouldn't imagine, but how many hours and how much. I cried when he first wore like shoes and socks, like regular tennis shoes. Oh, it was like the most miraculous moment ever. Anyways, but he's doing great now. Now he's he'll wear whatever clothes, and he's transitioning to college. He's got a relationship, but he is still struggling with routine learning, managing finances. He doesn't sleep well. He can be pretty impulsive. The food situation is still challenging. We're working on that. Self-care needs. So, it's not like he's cured. So, people will say to us, oh, he doesn't look like he has autism. Is he cured now? Or maybe he was misdiagnosed. And those things to me are extremely triggering, because again, it took us so long to get him diagnosed that it was like the worst. It's like the last thing I want to hear is somebody saying that. So where we fell out, again, I kind of talked about this already, but we kind of fell away from the church because we weren't getting the support. We weren't being accepted. We weren't having a place to even sit or be where he could manage it in the church. And then his brother with the ADHD, that picture of the balloons to him, I just think it's the cutest picture ever. He has closed sensory issues around clothes too, because of the ADHD. And he got baptized a little bit late. So you see he has one shoe off. It was like the second he got into the party at my mother-in-law's house after the reception, he took off those clothes and he's in his diaper and he's the happiest baby ever, but he could not handle it either. And again, he having him and Julian in church, it was just like, this isn't going to happen, between the energy of the second one and the screaming and the tantrums of the first, and just the judgment. We just couldn't do it. So ways to support people. These are just some of my ideas. Again, I'm not an expert in this, but what I can tell you, what would have helped me, having multiple places where people can sit, maybe that are designated, where they can kind of watch the service, but not be with the crowd. And so if there's like just some designated spots for families, that are experiencing this, that they could request to sit a little bit separate. The quiet rooms, again, aren't always quiet. And so it's not, for us, that was not a good option. The other crying babies was just it was too much for him. And again, we couldn't even see the service. So we're like, why are we even here? We're just sitting here struggling in a hot room with screaming babies that are triggering Julian to scream, so why are we in this room? So, multiple seating options, if that's possible, maybe a separate service at a special time in the day where people can spread out, could be a shorter service. Having child watch options where the volunteers are actually trained or prepared to assist children with special needs, and helping to have maybe just general some of the talks about with the congregation, how to be accepting, not judgmental of differences. And when challenges arise, like the screaming, this is not just a spoiled child, there's challenges going on, trying to be welcoming, things, telling these families, we want you here, we support you, you're welcome here. We never felt welcome. We never felt like, we never even felt like there was anybody we could talk to. Again, my husband tried reaching out more than once, and we were never accepted. And it just became one more way that we were isolated as a family in our community, when we were really wanting help and support. And it was really the hardest time of our lives. And then learning the resources, the more that those in the congregation can learn, how to connect these families, because not everybody knows about regional center or that the IEP service, like how to advocate in an IEP, those kinds of things. So, it's just or that Radies can do a evaluation for free, there's developmental evaluations that they do, at no cost up to a certain age. And that's with Medi-Cal and everything else. Just those kinds of things. And I just love this picture of him. So I had to title it Aim High. So that's Julian in his SpongeBob outfit, but, using person-centered language. So even on the title for my presentation today, I retitled it to say, parent of a child with autism, rather than parent of an autistic child. Using that person-centered language really matters. Support families, listen and believe them. Being inclusive, even when it's challenging, because I get it, having families with special needs, that's a lot. And it, there's a lot of accommodations, and I know that can be, so figuring out, resource wise, how you can, do some accommodations to make them feel more welcome. Creating social opportunities, again, like even if you had like some outside groups where the families could just come and like network and share their stories and support each other, would be amazing. Helping these families not feel so isolated. Again, training support buddies or guides or volunteers to kind of help support these families in the coming up with solutions that would make them feel welcome. Identifying that the person with special needs areas of interest. So for Julian, again, it was trains and other things. So that would be a really easy way to kind of have gotten him into Child Watch, as if there was like some things that were special that he would have been interested in. That would have been, really helpful way to engage him into wanting to try those things. And then, these families are struggling. So letting them know about outside support and resources. Don't expect all the rules or practices to be followed. So if there's, again, maybe it doesn't have to be an hour service. Let's have a 30-minute service, think outside the box a little bit. Because some of the things that are the practices and the norms, and I get it, it's tradition, it's faith, some of these things, have to be the way they are, but is there a way to accommodate some of them where they could be more inclusive? Because we can't always do things the way others are doing them. And then having some tools available if you have the resources, like, the noise canceling headphones or break rooms, fidget spinners, things like that, just to, again, maybe the buddies can offer these, because not everybody's going to want them and can't be forced upon somebody, but to have them available just to try, and you never know, for some families, from kids, that might actually work. So anyways, okay. So I know I probably talked longer than I was supposed to, but that's me. That's my story.
Thank you so much, Tara. We truly appreciate that insight that you gave us regarding children with special needs, and it's a wide range. It's not just, yes, your child has autism and the other one has ADHD, but it's a wide range. Kids have multiple issues that could cause them to seem out of sorts. And we should take that as, instead of automatically saying, a negative side of a child, let's give that family some support to find out what can we do to help them, continue to be here, because we want them. We want everybody to stay and get the word. Don't leave before the miracle happens. It's my belief. So I put some links in the chat for additional services and resources that could help you kind of like find other ways that could help you manage and support families with special needs. Karen had to jump off, but she wanted me to ask, and you guys can put this in the chat, if there's anything else, any topics that you guys would like to hear surrounding the faith-based, things that you think would be good for us to learn and how to handle in a faith-based community. So just go ahead, if you have some topics, you can either shoot me an email, and I'll put my email in the chat. Shoot me an email if you have any ideas, or you can also put it in the chat as well. And so that's kind of what I have. If anybody has any questions for Tara, it's now open for questions. Yes, Laura?
I just want to say thank you for opening up and sharing your experience. It was wonderful. I want to say that I am a parent of an adult child with autism, and our journeys were similar in many respects. And I think the fact that you have continued to work full time is superhuman. So good job. I appreciate that. And about the hamburgers, I get that. But McDonald's is much cheaper. And my son can drive. And so every day he calls it the office. I'm going to the office, and that's McDonald's. So
I love it. Yes. They love routine.
yeah.
Yeah, we're between I know Five Guys is so expensive, that and Popeyes right now. I'm like, really, Popeyes? Ugh, so unhealthy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all for having me.
Thank you, Tara, for coming. And that's the end of our meeting. We'll send out more. Tara did mention she has the Domestic Violence Council has an amazing training next Tuesday. I can drop that in. I will send that out to this group so that if you guys want to attend, it's an amazing training. I can also drop that in there as well.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.